Or steel cold rolled and cold form member modeling. Modeling steel columns, cold form columns, steel column overview. Single steel column can be created over several stories, stacks, story heights or stacks can start, finish at any level. Different column sections are defined in each stack, provide a splice defining at changing point. Each column stack is placed on the insertion line of the points. Geometry is drawn to reflect the major and minor snap points, any offsets specified with the column properties. Major snaps and offsets, we have the top, VE, center, bottom. Top's offset, center onset, bottom offset. Middle snap, offset, left, offset, center, right. Steel columns, alignment, snap joints, offset with the dome effect with the position of 1D solver element, solver models of the solver elements always inserted along the steel columns insert lines. This is a different approach adopted with the concrete column solver elements in which alignment snap points are offset with the structural significance. Parpet post overview. Steel parpet posts of the single span members are fixed to end connections. Specific purpose is means for the transfer load for the wind wall panels into column with the decomposed load for the panel being applied with the point load moment with the node connecting in the parpet post to the column. Parpet posts are not designed in Tekla Structural Designer. How do I specify the column type and section size? To specify the type of the steel column, click Model Steel Column drop-down list. Select the steel plated to concrete filled encased concrete from the drop-down list. Alternatively, to specify the cold form column, click Model Column Cold Form Group. Specify the column size, section, box, new, and edit. Pick a new section, select section, dialog, click select. Before proceeding to create the column, check for the remaining property displayed in the steel column property set and adjust as required. How do I create a single column in a 2D view? Ensure that you have the design construction level between the column will run with the grid points between which it will lie. So select the column type and specify how do I specify the column type and section size. Check the base level, the top level of the display in the property windows with the correct adjust as necessary. Click the point with the column to be placed where the points cannot create the member. How do I create a series of columns in 2D view? Ensure that you define the construction level between the columns will run in the grid points between them they will lie. Select the column type and size. How do I specify the column type and section size? Check the base level, the top level, the displayed and property windows are correct and adjust as necessary. Move the cursor one corner imaginary box will encompass with the grid intersection points you want to create the columns. 5. Click and hold the left mouse button. Drag the diametrically opposite corner of the box. You'll see the rubber rectangular on the screen which follow the mouse movement. It helps you with check in the area with which you are creating. Once the rubber rectangular encompasses with the grid intersection points which you want to create columns and release the mouse button. How do I create a single column frame structural view? In order to define the column frame in the structural view, you must first have already defined the construction level between the column and the run and the grid points between which it lies. To create a column, select the column type and size. How do I specify the column type and section size? Click the point of the column to start. Where do I what points can I create to create a member? Click the point with the columns to end with the structural. Tekla Structural Design creates a column between these 2 points. How do I align the column to the specific angle with the angle grid line? These options are provided specifying alignment of the new column achieved with the setting rotation property as follows. 0, 90, 100, or 90 aligns the column to the global axis. This angle aligns the column to the exact rotation angle you specify. The define aligns the column to the angle of the grid line you select. How do I create an incline column? An incline column can only be created with a frame or in a frame or structure view. In order to define the column, you define the construction level between the column that run and the grid points between them in which it will lie. So select the column type and size. Click the point of the column is to start. Click the point where the column is to end. Tekla structure creates the column between these 2 points. Related topics. How do I create a crank column? How do I create a crank column? A crank column can only be created with a frame and structural view. In order to define the column, you must find with the construction level between which column will run grid points between which it will lie. Select the column type and size. 2. Click the point with the column to start. 3. Press and hold the control key on the keyboard. Click the next node of the crank column. Press step 3 to define the panel-mated node of the crank column, press Control key and click the point where the column is to end. How to create a plated or compound section steel column? Click Model Steel Column, select Plated Section, dialog box, New Edit. In the selection, select Section dialog box, choose the required compound section type of the left-hand pane. Select the required section and list the section on the appear for the selected type of the section not listed and click Add. Enter sections, plate, dimensions, gaps, or fill with a fully defined section. Either accept the generated name of the rename and click OK to add the section. Once the new section has been added to the list, then it can be selected. The section is automatically added to the material database so that it does not have to redefine when required subsequent models. 5. Review the remaining properties of the property windows adjust if necessary. However, the reduce the place column depends on whether you are in 2D view or a frame structure view. To apply plated compound section, existing state column in the column properties and fabrication box, click plated. Find section drop list. Each of the compound section has already been applied with a model. Choose the new edit to select a new one. How do you create a concrete filled encased concrete steel columns? Concrete filled and concrete encased steel columns can be analyzed but cannot be currently designed with a Tekla structure designer. And click Model Steel Column, select concrete filled concrete encased. The columns will be adopted the property that are currently displayed with the steel column property set. Review the property just as necessary. How do you proceed with the place of the columns depending on whether you're in 2D view or frame structure view? How do I create a gable post or a parpet post? Click Model Steel Column or any other elements that does not actually matter which. In this characteristics box, click Gable Post or Parpet Post as required. The properties displayed are updated to appropriate type of the post chosen. Before proceeding, creating a post, check with the remaining properties with a gable post and property set with a pair of parpet post properties set adjust as necessary. For a gable post, consider it particular if an axle load release at the top is required set under release heading. What kind of load deflection parameters are required set under the deflection limited to heading? 4. Click the member click where the member is to start. Point 1 where the points I click to create a member. If you want to use the point along a member, then click the member first to see its points. Then either click the point you want to use or type the distance of the point from the start of the member. Click where the member is to end. Point 2. How do I specify a column splice? Splices can be added with the base for each of the column apart from the stack 1 is required. As the splice of offset with the G to locate each splice with a particular distance above the floor level. To add a splice, select columns. The properties displayed as edit steel column property sets. Expand the property of stacks where the splice is required. Select splice. The splice is added to the base of each of the stack apart where the stack 1 is required. Splice offset can be located to the splice at a particular distance above the floor level. You should notice that the selection property, which is previously dimmed, is now within the editable, allowing you to specify the different section size for the space position. How do I modify position of a single column stack? Column stack positions can be modified either by the frame or structural view and scene content. Sure grade construction lines are selected. Select the column of which the stack is to be moved. The column highlighted in one color, the column end nodes in the middle node in another. Select one end nodes of the columns to be moved. Ensure that the node is highlighted. Select the editing tooltip to selecting one of as an opposed to one of the members connecting with the node. 4. Click on the grade construction point to redefine the column stack end node position. The entire column is redrawn. Selected node moved into the new position. Select the next mode that either ensure the node is highlighted with the select any tooltip to selecting as opposed to the members connecting to the node. 6. Click the grid and construction point, redefine the end node position in the column and redrawn one more selected node moved into the new position. How do I modify the position of the entire column? Simply move the command located with the edit ribbon, modeling steel beams and cold formed beams, steel beam overview. Steel beams overview can be defined. Single span continues over multiple spans. If the continuous, although a single member is created, it does not prohibit a different beam section long defined in each span. Each steel beam span is placed on the insertion line between points, but geometry is drawn to reflect the major and minor snap points, any offset specified in the beam properties, the level, the type, the specified by the construction level dialog. Your major, snap, and offsets. We have your V positive offset, V negative offset, floor level, insertion level, bottom, center, and top. Minor snap offsets, we have left, center, and right of the insertion point and floor level. Alright, top offset steel and structural slab level. Insertion line and top offset steel. Insertion structural slab level, insertion line, slab level thickness. When level type of the top of the shield, each beam is displayed according to the alignment of snap points for the offset specified. Where the level type is set with the structural slab level, each beam is addition lower slab thickness specified by the construction level dialog. Steel beam alignment snap points offset with construction level. The type had no effect with position 1D solver elements for the solver models. This is a different approach adopted for the concrete beam solver elements. How do I specify beam type and section size? To specify the type of steel beam models, click model steel beam drop list. Select type steel plated Westcock cellular Westcock plated FabSec from the drop list. Alternatively, specify the cold form beams. Click model beam in the cold form group. And specify the beam size in section. Click the new edit in the new section selection section dialog box and click select. Before proceeding to create the beam, check with the remaining properties of steel beam properties set of adjusted as required. How do I create a single span beam? 1, select the beam type size. 2, click where the beam is to start at point 1. If you're using a point along a member, click the member first to see the point. Either click for the point where you want to use, type the distance for the point of the chart member. Click where the beam is to end in point 2. If you were prompted to pick another point 3, this will be due to the continuous being selected with the beam property set. In order to create with a single span beam, simply create once again on point 2, press enter and key. How do I create a plated compound section steel beam? Click the model steel beam, select plated. In the selection box, click new edit the selection section. Dialog box, choose the required compound section type of the left hand pane. Select the required section of the list section. Appear for the selected type. If the selection is not listed, click add. Enter section plate dimension gaps required to fully define the section. Either accept the generated name or rename it. Click OK to add the section. Only once the new section has been added to the list, then it can be selected. The section is automatically added to the material database so that it does not have to redefine when required subsequent models. For our review, the remaining property of the property windows is just necessary. However, you proceed with the place beam depending on whether they're a 2D view or a frame structure view. To apply a plated compound section existing steel beam property in the fabrication box, click plated section box. Clicking existing compound section, click new and edit to select new one. How to create a Westcock cellular Westcock plated and FabSec beam. Click model steel beam drop down list. Select the beam type required for the drop list. Beam will adopt property for those currently displayed in steel beam property test. On the review of the property set with adjustment necessary, click where the beam is to start point 1. If you're using point along with the member, click with the member first to see where the point. Then enter click the point where you choose. To type the distance for the point for the start member. 5, click the beam where beam is to end point 2. If you can prompt to pick another point 3, you will be due to this continuously being selected a beam property set. In order to create a single span beam, simply click once again on point 2 and press enter. Related, how do I create a single span beam? How do I create a series of single span beams? How do I plated compound section steel beam? How do I create a continuous beam? And how to create a curved beam? How do I create a series of single span beams? In order to create a simple beams using method of floor construction level that must already contain the columns between the beams you will run, you must use the following 2D view of the floor construction level to give this option. Select the beam type inside, move the cursor one corner of imaginary box while it comes with the columns between them in which you want to create the beams. Click and hold the left mouse button. Drag with the diametrically opposite corner of the box. You'll see the rubber rectangular screen, which follow the mouse movement to help you check the area in which you are creating. Once the rubber rectangular encompasses with the columns in which you want beams creating, and release the mouse button. Beams are created between each adjacent pair of columns which you select. How do I create a continuous beam? Select the beam type inside of the property windows. Ensure the continuous option is selected. Just any other details necessary. Click where the beam is to start. If you're using a point along a member, then click the member first to see its points. Either click the point you want to use, type the distance for the point with the start member. Click the node of the continuous beam. Repeat steps 1 until the defined penultimated node of the continuous beam, which click the beam is to end. 7, and you are now prompted to pick another point. Simply click once again on the same point, press enter key to create with the continuous beam. You cannot define continuous beams which are curved either horizontally or vertical. Once again, you cannot define continuous beams which are curved either horizontally or vertically. How do I haunch an existing beam? Hover over the cursor over the beam in which you add haunches so that it becomes highlighted. Right click, select edit for the drop down menu, click haunches page for the property dialog box, select quick layout. 5, click create button. 6, define the haunch and end plate geometry as required, click OK. Although haunches are considered in the analysis, they are not considered in beam design. Caution: in current release, you should avoid connecting any other member of the harness portion of the beam. How do I create a curved beam? Select the beam type and size, and in the property windows to ensure the linearity is set to the curve major is to the curve vertically, and curve minor is to curve horizontally. An appropriate chord height value is specified to define the curve. You can control the direction of horizontally curved beam curves when you play for the beam and select the start point at the end point. The beams always curve so that it will looking at the theoretical line from the start point to end point of the curve on the beam will always lie on the right of the line. Vertical curve beams or negative chord height values can be used to reverse the curve direction. Adjusting any other detailed property set is necessary. Click at where the beam is to start point 1. If you're using a point among the member, click the member first to see what the points. Click the point in which you want to use. Type the distance and point of the start of the member. Click where the beam is to end point 2. When you're defining the points of the beam vertically, if you use the 2D view of the floor construction level, the vertical projection of the beam is out of the plane with the floor construction level. If you're using, in this case, you will not see the beam graphically displayed. You'll need to change the 3D view of the floor construction level of the entire structure in order to see them. Horizontally curved beams always take the chord height defined in the property set, but do not curve automatically fit only any curved grid line they may have been defined. How do I modify the position of the beam? You can modify an individual beam position in both 2D and 3D views. Select the beam to be moved. The beam is highlighted in one color. The beam and end nodes and the middle nodes in another. Now select the beam and the end of the to move. Ensure the node is highlighted and selected any tooltip to selecting one opposed to the members connecting the node. 3. Click the grid of the construction point of the redefine of the beam end node position. The beam is redrawn spanning to the new end position. Modeling steel braces, cold form braces. Steel brace overview. Tekla structural design allows you to define braces, particular stability with your structure. Alternatively, you specify the rigid frames achieve the same effect. You can also use both methods. Single structure should be necessary. Steel brace or single span. Remember the pipe end connections that only be able to resist axial compression and tension. Each steel brace is placed on an insertion line between 2 points of geometry being drawn and reflect the major and minor snap points of any offset specified within the brace properties. The alignment snap points offsets have no effect with the position solver elements created with the solver models, as they will be created directly between insertion points. Element loads can be applied directly to the brace itself. Moments due to self-weight load are ignored, as well as single braces are also ways to define in pairs braces form X, K, V, and A type braces. These braces pair can be defined vertical, horizontal, slope plane with bays formed in intersection column beams. Each brace of the pair has independent properties. Vertical load release can be applied at the end of the V or A type braces so that they are dropped down members against gravity loads. You're prevented releasing single braces of the other braces pair in this way. V and A braces are models imported from Revit that are only recognized as a pair if they have already been released vertically, and Revit if they have not, they may be imported 2 single braces of the vertical release. And split command is available to split pairs into individual braces. Input method A and V braces. A and V braces should be modeled using special tools which you can find in the steel brace drop list of the steel section model tab. Although it's possible to model exact same brace arrangements and individual elements created with using single brace command, it's important not to with notational loads. The equivalent horizontal forces calculated with the models using A and V brace tools are correct. It's not the case that A and V braces are built up out of individual braces. It's in the later cases, elements of the vertical loads that are supported with the bracing systems are lost and not included in the notational load or equivalent horizontal forces. Calculation result of the calculated notational loads or equivalent horizontal forces are not correct. Inactive steel braces. Inactive steel braces can be made inactive within the solver model, creating inactive within the brace properties. Tension only and compression only in braces. Once a steel brace has been placed and its properties can be edited if required space that in tension only and compression only. Tension only and compression only members are nonlinear elements and therefore require no linear analysis. Linear analysis is performed, they will be treated as linear elements. How do I specify brace type and section size? To specify the type of the steel brace, click Model Steel Brace drop-down list, select the steel brace X steel brace X, K, V, or A from the drop-down list. Alternatively, specify the cold form brace. Click Model Brace Cold Form Group, and then specify the brace size section. Click New and Edit. Pick the new section select section dialog. Then click Select. Before proceeding to create the brace, check the remaining properties of steel brace properties and set and adjust as required. How do we create a single brace? Select the brace type and size. Click the brace to start in point 1. If you're using point along the member, click the member first to see if the point, and click the point you want to use. Type the distance of the point and start with the member. Click where the brace to is to end point 2. A and V braces modeling use special tools which can be found in steel brace drop list, steel selection model tab. Although it's possible to model it's also possible to model the exact same brace arrangement using individual elements created with a simple steel brace command. It is important to note that while the equivalent horizontal forces calculated model using the A and V brace tools are correct, this is not the case for A and V braces are built up with individual brace members. Later case elements of the vertical loads that are supportive of the bracing system are lost or not equivalent, and the equivalent horizontal forces calculation result of the calculated equivalent horizontal forces are not correct. How do I create an XK or VA brace? Click Model, then click Steel Brace Drop List pattern of the XK and V and A. So the braces adapt the property currently displayed in steel beam properties. Review the property just as necessary. Click and identify with the bottom corner of the bay brace point point 1, identify with the option bottom center of the bay to be brace point 2. Click and identify with the top corner of the bay to be brace point 3. You'll see a rubber rectangular screen with the valve of the mouse movement that helps you check if the orientation is correct. 6. Click and identify with the opposite top corner of the bay to be brace point 4. The brace is to be created with the area where you have selected. How do you modify a position of the brace? Modify an individual brace position by 2 or 3D views. Select the brace to be moved. The brace is highlighted in one called the brace end nodes in another. Note that the end node is to be moved. Ensure that the node is highlighted dim, and then selecting any tooltip, selecting oppose one of the members connecting to the node. Click the greater construction point, redefining the brace end node position. The brace is redrawn, spanning the new end position. Modeling steel joist.